Hey y'all, if you've ever lost a tomato to bugs, birds, or cracks just days before it's ready, this video is for you. Today we're sharing why we never wait for our tomatoes to turn fully red on the vine, and why picking them early might just save your whole harvest. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Laid Back Gardening. This is like our third attempt to get this episode recorded today, and every time we've come out here and got the camera set up and got everything ready, it has started to rain, and what's more, it is raining now, but we're going to shoot irregardless.
Yeah, I was in the house relaxing, sitting there. I've been watching the radar. I said, we got about 5 minutes, it's gonna clear up. I switch my phone to something else and go back to the radar, and nope, there it is raining. So we're just gonna do it.
It's just gonna be a rainy day, but we're gonna make it happen. Today we're talking about the benefits of getting your tomatoes off the vine before they ripen. But before we dive in, let's go over some basics. Tomatoes are considered climacteric fruits, which means they continue to ripen after harvest due to ethylene. The next term we need to familiarize with is breaker stage. This is when your tomatoes start to turn colors, and at least 10% of that tomato has converted to the color it's going to be, whether you have, it depends on the variety of tomatoes that you have. Some are pink, some stay green. You've got red tomatoes are the most common. You have yellow tomatoes. But when that green starts to fade to whatever color that tomato is meant to be when it's ripe, that's what you're looking for, at least 10%. This is called the breaker stage. When this happens, the tomato starts producing ethylene gas. And what that does is it triggers that tomato to start breaking down the chlorophyll, which is where they get the green color. Then the starches start to turn to sugars, which give the sweetness and the flavor to the tomatoes. The cells start softening, hence they have the squeeze to them. They're not quite as firm. But all this process continues to happen whether or not that tomato is still on the vine or not. Because once it hits that breaker stage, all this continues regardless if it's still attached to the mother plant. So now that we've got the basics and the science behind it, let's get into all the benefits that you reap from getting those tomatoes off the vine once they hit the breaker stage and start blushing. Which again, this is another term just meaning that they start to have their color.
I'll go ahead and pick this one right here if you want me to and show it.
Yeah, you can do that.
We're harvesting some today anyway, but ta-da!
Yeah.
Blushing.
With insect damage or bird damage, any kind of interference with the tomato, you'll notice even if they're not mature or at the point of what we call breaker stage, they will start turning because that tomato is then compromised.
Here's a damage from a worm tomato, and it's kind of small, and you can see it's already
so you can tell by the size of that tomato that it's nowhere near hitting breaker stage, but because it's been compromised, then it starts producing that ethylene gas and goes on into breaker stage. And I'm not real sure if this is Mother Nature's way to go ahead and ripen that fruit off to get it off the vine so that more energy is not going into that wasted fruit. Not really sure what Mother Nature's intentions there were. You have to be very careful and very vigilant in watching your tomatoes when you have heavy rainfall. Because it can cause splitting in your tomatoes. They can't hold all that moisture and all that water in the cell walls, and so they'll start to actually split on you. So this is one benefit that you get right off the bat by picking them once they hit that breaker stage and are going to ripen regardless if they're still on the vine or not. By picking a little early, once they hit the breaker stage, you're avoiding the split from heavy rains, you're avoiding pests and birds because they become attracted to those tomatoes that start gaining that color. That's what attracts them. And also disease. The longer you leave them on the vine, the more vulnerable, say that word.
Vulnerable.
they are to diseases. So there's really no benefit. Some people will argue that, you know, if you let them ripen on the vine, they have more flavor. But for us, we just haven't found that to be true.
Mm-mm.
The flavor, we have tried them both ways, and we cannot tell any difference in the flavor from picking them early and letting them ripe inside the house. That's another thing. If you do pick early and you take them in, you want to keep them around room temperature, between 60 and 70 degrees or 65 and 75 degrees.
The same way we dry aged our potatoes and we keep our potatoes in here, we lay them out on the table. We have footage from last year, but we'll have some from this year because we're going to harvest today all the tomatoes that are close. But we have a storage building here and we've got air conditioning units in it. So during the summertime, we're able to keep it. We leave them on set at a temperature, I think around 70, 71 degrees at night. And then it's on during the day when we're working, but it stays on all the time. So,
and another myth is that, I don't know about you guys, but I've always heard, you know, put them in the windowsill because they need that sunlight to ripen, and that's just not true. Tomatoes, again, they produce their own ethylene gas, and that's what ripens the fruit, not sunlight. So you want to be careful. It's not to say that you can't put them in a windowsill, but don't put them in a windowsill that's going to get direct hot sun because they can blister while they're sitting there ripening.
Terribly. I learned that lesson the year before last. I think I set some up. We have a spot out here behind the house, and we had a tomato garden at that time closer, and I was just taking them and setting them over there, and it burned them up. And then we put them here on a table last year
outside the storage building.
Outside the storage building, shaded all the time, had no problems.
Other than the squirrels. That's where we found out that squirrels do eat tomatoes.
Caught them several times and they're eating them.
Yes. So this year we got the building, inside the building cleaned out. We're going to set up a table and actually keep them inside that climate controlled building. Like I said, we have a window unit in there and we keep it around 70, 71 degrees. But you can keep them on your kitchen counter, you know, just wherever in the house that suits you. It doesn't have to be in the windowsill, like I said. You do want to try to keep them from touching because the skin-to-skin contact can cause rot. So try to keep them spaced out. And another thing to know is with the tomatoes giving off that ethylene gas, if you've got them all close together, they will share that gas and ripen faster. So if you have different stages, or if they're more on the greener side, you may want to, you know, kind of cluster them close together so they'll ripen a little faster. But if they're closer to being ripe, you want to space them out a little further because, like I say, they use the ethylene gas off of one another, and there's other fruits and vegetables that give off the ethylene gas, bananas, apples. So those can also be used to sit around in the general vicinity of tomatoes that you're wanting to hurry the process of ripening. So just know that, and you can use it either way. Like I said, if they're close to being ripe and you kind of want to slow it down, spread them out. Or if you're trying to speed up the process, cluster them closer together, just try to keep them from touching skin to skin. You also, while we're talking about the storage, you also want to always store them with the stem side down, like so. Like so. If you can, keep them out of the refrigerator. The refrigerator really dampens the flavor of tomatoes. There's something about the reaction of the cool temperature and the enzymes inside the tomato that really take away that good tomato flavor. Hence, your blander tomatoes in the grocery store. Try not to, but if you slice them and you got some left over, you can pop them in the fridge, and if you'll take them out before you're ready to eat them from the fridge and bring them back to room temperature, they will regain some of their flavor. But that's just a tip for you guys. I went almost my whole adult life not realizing that the refrigerator took a toll on the flavor. So just want to pass that along. But again, the splitting can be caused by overwatering, or like I say, if in Mother Nature, things that we can't control, heavy, continuous rainfall, which we have gotten for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, several
And
weeks.
so we're having a little trouble with the splitting because of all the moisture in the air and in the soil. So just to recap, a few questions that you guys may have is, will they still taste good if we pick them at an earlier stage? Yes, they will. As long as you let them ripen inside to what you would let them ripen to on the vine, their flavor is going to be, in our opinion, exactly the same. How do I know when to pick? Okay, if you're planning to pick them a little early, like I said, you want at least 10% of the color coming to your tomato, depending on your variety as to what color that would be. But as long as at least 10% of that tomato. But once you start seeing that blush and that change of color, and in your red varieties, that redness come to it, as long as it's 10%, you know it has fully entered the breaker stage, and everything's needed for that to ripen off the vine. So, and also it'll still be firm, but it'll have just a little bit of softness to it, but not much at all. Will all tomato types ripen off the vine? Yes, they will, as long as you let them reach the breaker stage. What if I pick one too green? And this is another thing. A lot of times when you're tying your vines, once they start getting loaded down with the green tomatoes, or you're out here just walking around, you may accidentally knock one off that's green. They probably, if they have not hit breaker stage, there's a prime
The
example.
dogs was in here earlier when we was pulling weeds and tussling and knocked this one off. But
and as you can see, there's no blushing. It has not started with any color, so that tomato has not hit breaker stage yet.
We'll make a good fried green tomato.
Exactly. Don't cull them. You can make fried green tomatoes. You can make, I've seen green tomato relish, green tomato jam. You can pickle green tomatoes. You guys just...
And our sauces, we made homemade sauces and jarred some and froze some a couple years ago. And actually, it gives it a little bit more of a crunch using green tomatoes. We done green tomatoes in our sauces.
You can also... You're good with all the fancy words. The salsa verde.
Yeah, salsa verde.
You can make that out of green tomatoes also. I saw a recipe on that just a couple days ago. Actually, she was using the green tomatoes. But there's tons of way to use them. Don't cull those green tomatoes. You can also grill them green. Slice them and grill them.
We'll have a bunch of recipes on tomatoes. We done a fried green tomato recipe.
It's already up.
Yeah, we just done it a couple days ago. And actually, we fried them again a couple days later. We fried some chicken wings and we had them again. They're delicious.
But this one right here can fry a green tomato like it ain't nobody's business. So if you guys have not checked that video out, he uses a 2-layer batter and the crunch is unbelievable. So check out that video. I think it's actually Garden to Table episode 3, if I'm not mistaken. But just go to our Garden to Table playlist. It'll also be linked at the end of the video and down in the description. Check that out. But that pretty much wraps it up for this video. We've got some jalapenos to go pick. You guys be on the lookout for that video. That's also going to be another Garden to Table recipe. We're going to show you how we make our jalapeno poppers and how we go ahead and put those up to last us all winter. So y'all stay tuned for that.
We've already picked a handful of cucumbers. We got several more down here in our basket. But I don't know if you posted the video yet on the cucumber salad. Yeah, I'll be sure to check. That's some good stuff.
Fresh summer cucumber corn salad.
Real fresh tasting.
It is
aromatic,
very refreshing.
Our eggplants is doing good too this year. I was just playing. We got chickens over there.
We got an assortment down here in our basket. But you guys can come along. We're gonna go ahead and pick just what we talked about. The ones that's already entering the breaker stage. We're gonna go ahead and get those off the plant and take them, like you said, to the storage building that we've got set up. That we're gonna let them finish ripening.
Ripening.
Yeah. I can't talk today.
No, you do a dang good job.
But anyway, I guess that concludes this one, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Laid Back Gardening with Blue Dog Ventures.
Appreciate y'all guys watching.
See you guys.